Tesla's on track to get to scale production of Cybercabs next year. But the question is, will Tesla sell this to the public or keep them all themselves as robotaxis? Did billionaire Tesla investor Ron Barron just spill the beans? In a recent interview, Ron said that Tesla will keep the cars, and each car will generate $30,000 to $50,000 in profit per year on a $20,000 cost of goods car. He said that even if you sandbag that to $20,000 per year over 5 years, that's 15 to 20 times profit over just selling the cars. So I've been saying this for a while now. It just doesn't really make sense for Tesla to sell these Cybercabs, even if they get a revenue share. So with Elon Musk's announcement that Tesla will pledge to double the production output of cars over the next 2 years in the US, might he be referring to at least 1 million Cybercabs instead of regular cars? Brian White is with us today. He's the host of his YouTube channel, FutureAza, and he's one of the best Tesla retail analysts out there who understands production, manufacturing, and the factories. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks. It's an honor as always. There's so much to discuss on Cybercab, but the business aspect of it is tricky, and we've got a lot to cover.
Yeah. So you've interviewed several Tesla engineers who are building the Cybercab, so you know quite a bit about it. And I wanted to, this is the question, right? Why would they sell Cybercabs to individual consumers? And listen to what Ron Barron said. So Ron Barron was just interviewed in CNBC, and he said this. Listen for this. He says Tesla will keep the cars, and each car will generate 30, 50,000 in profit per year. So explaining why it's such a lucrative scenario for Tesla to keep the cars and run it as a robotaxi. Why would they sell it? Did he spell the beans? Let's listen to what he said here.
Let me just ask.
But anyway, the fundamentals are changing. Instead of making $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 a car, you're going to robo cars, and every time they have 1 million cars that they make, that they keep, that are $30,000 a piece that last 1 million miles, those cars are going to generate 50,000 revenue miles a year. So before the model was they're making $7,000 in profit a car, $6,000 in profit a car, 1,000,008 cars. Now all of a sudden you're keeping the cars and making them robo-taxis. What that means is that if you do 50,000 miles a year for a car, those cars will generate 50,000 revenue miles, will generate $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 in profit per year, per car. So every time you have 1 million cars, you're adding $30 or $40 or $50 billion to $30 or $40 or $50 billion to profit.
What do you think, Brian? I mean, he said that they keep. Or, what was your interpretation of that?
So the first thing to note is Ron Barron is no dummy. He is a very sharp analyst, investor. He has made a great fortune by being able to see things that others could not. And while he is certainly not infallible, he'd be, I'm sure, the first to admit that, he does have fantastic insights. So the question is, how much money could Tesla make selling me a Cybercab? Well, they could, 20% margin, $20,000 to build it. They could make $5,000. And Ron is saying, $6,000-7,000 on the more expensive models. Sure. So $5,000 is all Tesla needs to offset before it makes more sense to keep it than lose it, than sell it. $5,000. That's it. That's not very tricky because you could always turn around and sell it later if you didn't want it. How long will it take to make 5,000 in profit? Not long. And the full 25 back to have a free car that's now just printing money? Not long. The worst math I've seen, the least favorable math I've seen says that they would make their 25,000 back in a year. And that, as Ron Barron pointed out, is the beginning of the vehicle's life cycle. So why would they sell it? Well, there's a limit to how much capital you can deploy. There's a limit to how much capital you have. But I think the more realistic answer is the real limit is how much ground resource you have. Tesla has always said, we are happy to deploy capital. We are not holding back our nickels for a rainy day. We're holding them back because we don't see a good place to spend it right now. And it's difficult to expand your ground operation to have enough cleaning depots, enough. One example would be, would it make sense for Tesla to build a cleaning center here in my little town? Probably not. So would the Cybercabs even come here? Eventually, but with my help, they would come here sooner. If you look at corporate restaurants, they don't pop up in every single town. But when you look at franchise restaurants, all of a sudden it makes sense, because if you've got a local owner who's willing to make it work, you can have a Subway in your town of 500 people if the numbers work. So the math changes when you include sales into the figure. And Tesla can get a percentage of every ride thereafter. Not every, but a lot of owners would choose to remain on the Tesla network. That would provide additional revenue there. So yeah, it would be, I can see both ways, but Ron Barron is correct. I think it would be crazy for Tesla to choose to sell the majority. To even sell a small minority would be as far as I could see them wanting to go.
Yeah, so there's two sides of this, of course, right? There's one side where you've heard Elon say a long time ago, he repeated many times that he expects to have fleet managers. He expects that people will buy these robotaxis, whether there are regular cars or cybercabs. He did say that we would sell the cybercab, we would lease it as well as sell it. So he did say we need fleet managers, but at the time we did not know that they would have these, wireless charging at the superchargers, which we had Lars, was it Franz? Yeah, say that there'll be handfuls of them already in June, wireless chargers and superchargers, and then that you have these automated cleaning. If you have automated cleaning, you have this. You don't need fleet managers. You've got the app now. You don't need Uber. We know now that Uber CEO said that. I spoke to Elon many times, and he just doesn't think there's a need to partner with Uber. There's no need.
Well, I would say that if you read the article when Uber was saying that Tesla doesn't want to partner with us, what Tesla said is, we're not partnering with you for the launch in Texas. It doesn't make sense. We don't need you. It's a trial run. It'll probably roll out fairly slowly, a couple dozen, maybe a couple hundred vehicles, certainly not the thousands that it would take to run out of demand. So I think that doesn't mean Uber is shut out. That means they're shut out of the launch, which I think is reasonable, because if you keep them all in-house, you can control, like if you've got a data center outage somewhere and you need to suspend service network wide, you can do that. They're your cars. You can just say no cars available right now. But once you've got a third party partner, Uber, you or me managing the fleet, we would say, no, BS. I want my car out making money right now. Just that introduces hassle during a difficult time such as a launch.
Yeah. But at this, so they may still do fleet managers. Absolutely. We'll see what happens, but it's just curious how they do it. I think what you said earlier makes most sense, which is, if you don't want to shell out the $20,000 for every car, you could have somebody pay for that cost, get some money right in the assets right away, and then share the revenue over time. But this is very lucrative to Tesla. His math shows that if you can get even just $20,000 per year, and that's the sandbag number, because it could generate $30,000 to $50,000 of profit per year. But let's say it's $20,000 per car, Cybercab per year. That's over 5 years. Right? You're making $100,000 per car, as opposed to just $5,000 or $7,000 per car. So Jordan from Limiting Factor said that for every 1 million Cybercabs that Tesla owns and puts on the road, at a 30 PE ratio, it's about $1 trillion market cap. So just 1 million gets you $1 trillion, which is what the market cap is already today. And so the question is, when can you get 1 million Cybercabs? And this is where it gets very exciting, of course, is that Elon just announced that he said that, Tesla will commit to doubling vehicle production output in the US within 2 years. This is his actual tweet, his post. Tesla commits to doubling vehicle production in the US within 2 years. So when I took a look at this, I wanted to ask you this question. You're the expert in this space. They posted this table at the Q4 earnings deck just a month ago. And they showed you that in California, they're making 100,000 Model S and X and about over 550,000 Model 3s and Ys. So that's 650,000 in California. And in Texas, you've got Model Ys and Cybertrucks. Now this is capacity. So 250 plus 375, 375 plus 650, you're over 1 million. So for Elon to say, we're going to double the US production, then it's 1 million cars. Now this is capacity. So, right? It's going to be 1 million.
Using the existing capacity would increase US sales by about 40-50%, because we can see, that's about 1 million in capacity. We are not selling 1 million in the US, but it's well north of 600,000 right at the moment. So it is Just with existing capacity, you could get a big chunk of the way there. But Cybercab is the variable. It's the wild card. We have not seen a car this simple to manufacture in modern history outside of some ultra compact, ultra affordable Chinese cars, which would not be comparable. So this car is going to be assembled very easily. The only limit to how many you can make, maybe the limit will be the batteries, probably not, because it's battery chemistry and form factor agnostic. It can, the limit is how many buyers you have. And the reality is, sell as many as you want. For every one you sell, you get to keep one. And you're going to make so much money off them, you can roll them out as quick as you want. Now, if you could make 2 million, could you buy 2 million? No, that's too many dollars. Tesla doesn't have that many dollars to keep 2 million out of the gate. But as soon as they start deploying them, they start bringing in money. And it doesn't take long for the amount of money they're bringing in to turn into this snowball that just rolls out of control, and pretty soon you've got an avalanche of cash, which is a place that many investors would love to be buried.
Yeah, so it looks like 655,000 cars were sold by Tesla in the US last year. 655,000, right? So that's the presumably what you sell is pretty close to what you output.
So even without expanding capacity, even with before you count the Cybercab or the Semi, you could increase 50% this year just with existing capacity. Yeah. And once you add the Cybercab and not very many, 50,000, 100,000 semis, the numbers start adding up. Is doubling US production in the next 2 years doable? Absolutely. I don't see any reason why not. And we haven't even talked about the more affordable vehicle that will be built.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So if you see this annual vehicle capacity, I thought it was curious why they added a line item here for Cybercab, put a dash in and said it's still in development. Why didn't they have a line item for the more affordable vehicles?
I don't know. It is a good head scratcher. And I think they're too afraid of it Osborning the 3 and Y. Of people saying, I'm not going to buy my car just yet. I'm going to wait for the more affordable one. Tesla needs to keep moving units until that happens. I do believe that is coming first half-ish, which means we've got just a couple months to wait before we see it. It would not surprise me if we hear about it on or about the earnings call, which is coming up not too far away in just about a month. We're going to see some exciting things, and I think they don't want to tip their hand too much.
I mean, I think everybody knows that there's more affordable vehicles coming. They could have easily put a slash here in Texas /new, and it's supposed to be on the same production line, and so this could be referring to this already. But yeah, I'm still believing that if of the 3 options, whether it's a stripped down Model 3, Model Y, whether it's a mini Model Y and a bigger size Model Y, or if it's just a drivable Cybercab, I'm still leaning towards a stripped down Model Ys. That's why it's not mentioned here, but it can go either way. Anyway,
we will find out soon enough.
So you just said, which is right, it's unlikely they need to build a factory. That's why he then said we will double production output. He didn't say we're going to build a factory, right? If
correct.
It was,
in the U.S. This was a statement about the U.S. This wasn't global figures. This was just U.S. figures.
Let's listen to that, and then we'll continue the conversation here. Let's.
Cars. I want to say, as a function of the great policies of President Trump and his administration, and as an act of faith in America, Tesla is going to double vehicle output in the United States within the next 2 years. Double.
Big deal. By the way, he makes one car. This one I don't understand. This one I don't want, but that's okay. Without a steering wheel, it comes out next year, right?
Yes.
Explain that, please.
Yes. Well, the Cybercab starts production in Texas next year, and it's self-driving. We have so much confidence in the self-driving nature of it that it will actually not have a steering wheel. It will not have pedals. It'll either self-drive or not drive at all, but it'll self-drive.
President Trump, and I'm going to pass on that particular.
Yeah. So he's talking about the Cybercab. He had the opportunity to explain that. Do you think that this, Do you think that this doubling 650,000 is going to be Cybercabs? Because he said over the next 2 years, doubling the output, is it Cybercabs or is it going to be, combination of everything?
It'll be a combination of everything, but it can't double without Cybercab. You need to have that model. The more affordable model would be great, but asking it to outsell the Model Y without cutting into the Model Y sales is too big of an ask. And yeah, that whole video is just very strange, but the capacity's there, the desire is there. I don't know what confidence is needed to do that, but if the Cybercab doesn't happen, that would make the doubling in the US very, very difficult.
Yeah. So that's the question I'm asking, right? Is that if you say that I'm going to, as an act of faith in America, which some people are saying, well, that means tariffs, that means economy, I'm going to go ahead and pledge that our company is going to double the production output. That might also mean that they're going to sell it.
Well, they have to,
but
they have to actually produce the cars. I don't know how, I don't understand the connection between any of that and how many cars you're able to sell. It's just what, you can build the cars, but unless it's a Cybercab, someone has to buy it.
Yeah, that's anyways where I'm going with this is that I think that most of this is going to be Cybercabs.
Mm-hmm. If it's solved, it'll be great. We are just a couple months from June, and we are not getting weekly updates. We are still getting updates. We don't know what they're working on behind the scenes. I have high confidence in what I've seen so far. But if someone doubts that it'll be done by June, I think they have every right to doubt that. I think what we have seen from all makers of assisted driving systems is nothing but delays. I've yet to hear of a manufacturer who hit a timeline on any of their self-driving systems, and a whole lot more companies just gave up because it's really hard. So if it ends up being, Q4 when it comes out, that doesn't necessarily derail the plan for doubling in the US. If it comes out Q4 of next year instead, then it's probably not going to happen.
Now, he just said that we're going to have production of the Cybercabs in 2026 next year. But in previous statements, he has said that we're going to have scale production in 2026. He repeated scale production. What's your definition of scale production?
So I think the video today doesn't contradict that. I think it was just a simplification, because getting into the details in a noisy press conference that's not really about technology or cars isn't necessarily instructive. So I would say that, what is my definition? So beyond a few hundred, I would say they could build 300-400 of them without calling it scale production. To me, scale production is when they say the line is running, let's get out as many as we can and scale as quick as we can. And there are obstacles to that are unique to a driverless vehicle that go on behind the scenes in ways that they don't with a traditional meat-driven machine.
Mm-hmm. How many Cybercabs do you expect in the first year? So we had, 50,000 Cybertrucks. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty normal, I think, to have around 50,000 for the first year of whatever new product you have. Cybertruck was brand new, though. It had so many new technologies. You understand the Cybercab quite well. In one way, it is new. They've never built this thing before. They've never built a unboxed model before. They're trying to cut costs in many different ways. But in other ways, you understand better than everybody. It's supposed to be much easier to make, cheaper to make, faster to make. So how many Cybercabs are you expecting in that first year?
From the beginning of volume production, you mean?
I'm just saying 2026.
Sure.
What's your guess on how many they'll make? Yeah.
So I would divide it into the first 6 months and the next 6 months. The first 6 months is ironing out all the little issues. But as soon as they're ready to scale, there is nothing holding them back. Demand, not an issue. If you don't want it, we'll keep it. Batteries, they're a third of what goes into a Cybertruck. Not an issue. There's no weird new systems. It is a whole new vehicle, but it's not all. The only thing that's new is all of the things that they removed. Removing things isn't complicated when it comes to building. So they don't have rear steering that they need to figure out. They don't have complicated air compressors. There's nothing revolutionary about any of the individual pieces of the Cybercab. It will go together quickly. So from the time that they say it is 100% ready, because what's different is in the brain. It's not even under the skin. It's the brain. It's the operating system of the car that's different. Once they turn on that tap, they will rocket to 100,000 and then the next year to 500,000 easy.
You're expecting 100,000 in 2026. Okay.
If it goes to volume, I'm expecting 100,000 when they begin, 1 year from the time they begin scale.
Is that run rate then? You're talking run rate, not total?
I'm talking total.
Total. Okay. So your hope or your expectation is, unlike the Cybertruck, which they only made 50,000 because they did run into issues and that's normal, right?
They had to make the 4680s. They had to get enough 4680s. They had to get enough people who could pay 120,000. And they had to keep the cars working despite having a whole bunch of new things, the steer-by-wire, these very powerful new motors. There was a lot of complicated issues involved in bringing it to market. This has different issues, I think, simple issues.
Yeah, the most different, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, is the body panel, where we have this new system of painting it before putting the paint in it in the body panel, but then you don't need a painting shop, so that it's kind of like, one or the other. But that's a new thing, right? So they never know how much they can produce, if they can make that at scale, if there's going to be issues with that.
That is a very easy one to be working on today, to be testing thoroughly today. You don't need the whole car to practice on that. So I'm confident they'll have that ironed out.
Okay.
And you had Jeff on to talk about some of the issues around that. And I thought that was a great discussion.
Yeah.
For those who haven't seen it, check it out.
Okay. So he's doubling the US output. You've got, you've got this Cybercab comment from Ron Barron. I do think that Ron, he's got info. I mean, he's got also billions invested.
Ron has enough invested that if something big was changing at the company, he may get a phone call to advise. That is something that happens with major shareholders. I know when Prince Al-Walid bin Talal was a big shareholder in Citibank, he would get calls saying, look, we're about to announce this, just so you know, is there anything we should consider beforehand because you own such a substantial percentage of our company? And he would advise and consent.
Here we are. So we're going to double I think most of this is going to be the more affordable vehicles. Now, one of the conversations you and I, we did a fantastic show. I really hope people could find that last year, where you explained and we had all the graphs and reports, remember, of what kind of cars U.S. consumers would buy and how they differ from the rest of the world, right? They'd like to buy the larger SUVs, the larger trucks. They need to travel through highways. You pointed out that many of the U.S. manufacturers and cars that are being brought into the U.S., they're just not, they were just deciding not to sell the compact cars, the sedans, but there's a market for it. So do you think there's a market for the more affordable vehicles here, or should they just sell those more affordable vehicles in China, in Europe, in India? And sure, you can make some here, but it's not going to be the main thing. What's your thinking about how big of a market is the more affordable vehicles here?
It depends on the size of it. If it's something the size of a Model Y, but more affordable, I think there's a tremendous market for it. Imagine a Model Y that didn't have an amazing 0 to 60, an amazing sound system, an amazing panoramic roof. That's a compelling car. That if you can get that car for 25, 30 grand, people will buy that. And I mean 25, 30 grand after incentive, assuming we still have the incentive. I think that car would sell quite well. What I would like them to do, if they do that, is at least change the front and back end so that there is visual market differentiation between them, so that people who spend 50, 60,000 on a car can still feel like they've got a better car. Because
you know what my theory is on that?
Let's hear it. My
theory on that is that you take the old version of the Model Y and you do that. It's almost exactly what Apple does. They will take, 2000, whatever, it says 2025 now, they'll take a 2023 phone, put a new battery in it, and then sell that as new phone now.
I'll tell you the reason they won't do that is because the old one costs more to make than the new one.
That's right. That's right. I'm just saying the shape.
It looks like they've thrown out the tooling for it.
Yeah, I'm saying the shape is the same as the old ones, but a lot of the innards can be changed. And it's going to be like a lot of it's going to be the same, shared with the Cybercab and of the inside, so that you can keep everything really cheap. And that's the one that makes most sense. The insides will change, but the outside is going to be the shape of the old cars, and that's why we haven't seen them out there, because Tesla already knows these two shapes.
Well, and they could test it invisibly because it would look like an employee driving his own car around. I'm going to take the opposite of whatever bet you just made, because I don't think that's happening.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Thank you so much, Brian. That was fun. This is new information we heard from Ron Barron. Whether or not he's right or wrong, we don't know. And of course, the big announcement from Elon, doubling the production output of cars in the US over the next 2 years. Whether or not that was already built in, that was Cybercabs. But you explained that we don't necessarily need to build new factories. That's maybe why he didn't announce that. Full of information. You guys want to learn more about the Cybercab, which is the most important product that Tesla's ever made? Go to check out FutureAza. He's got the best deep dives. He's interviewed the actual engineers. There's nothing out there that's better than these. They really were just spectacular videos and research and investigative journalism that you just did there, Brian. Thank you. Follow him at FutureAza. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.